You have a vase and you have a piece of fruit, and the kids could switch with each other with the templates for the fruit. So if you are 5th and 6th grade, you have a piece of paper of this size, white, yours is white, and it doesn't really matter what size you're going to make, whether you're going to make a vase or whether you're going to make a bowl. So this is for these two, this size and this size is what you need, whatever color they are, for the upper grade, for 5th and 6th. For 3 and 4, you will need these two. That's all you need for these two. And you need tape. I have a roll of masking tape floating around, so you have tape on your desk. Okay, so either or, this is for 5th and 6th. I'm going to be making a vase. This is for 3 and 4. We're going to do the same exact thing, but notice this vase is smaller, this vase is larger. So I'm just doing both of you guys at the same time because we are basically doing the same thing. So it kind of cuts to the chase here. Okay. So these two, this is what you're going to be doing right here. So taking this paper, so for, it doesn't matter, like I said, if you're going to do an upper grader, you could be folding it this way in half, like a, you know, to make a bowl, or this way, you can make it for a vase. Either way, you decide. I'm going to fold it, this is for a vase, so if you want it to be a bowl, fold it the other way. So the upper graders, either one, the way you fold it. You can, you know, take pictures of my pictures. I have more of them if you want to just get different ways to show whatever you like, but those are the options. Okay, so notice how big this vase is because we're not making all the fruit with the 3 and 4. So taking a pencil or a crayon, whichever, you need to have perimeters here. So at the top of the paper, now this is a very important thing. Kids will do and have extras because they won't listen a lot of times and they'll cut it on the wrong side. So they all know how to read a book, how the book is open. So have it set like this, and if you want to draw these on the board for different examples, but having the pages open to the right, putting your hand on the binder of the book, and making a line on the top, and about 2 fingers on the side over, and on the bottom, same thing, about 3 fingers, 2 or 3 fingers on the bottom. So these are the perimeters for this template. This is a template, so we use that word too, that they're making a template, stencils, I mean, to do this, and they could use it many times. So many different shapes to vases. So this is just a way, starting at that top line. Can be very simple, whichever. And when I show them this, I say, you know, it's like, what's that look like? Oh, it looks kind of like a fish, you know, so if you turn it on its side. But every vase is different, so however they want it to be. So same thing with the, whatever you want to make on the smaller one. So you have guidelines also, a little bit smaller on the side. Okay. Now, a very important thing, this line that they've made, they can only cut it once, and I'll explain it down the road, because you could be using the positive piece, which is the piece that we cut out. So you're going to follow that line, and you only can cut this once, so I can't trim it up is what I'm saying. Don't trim it up or it won't match all the way. So following the line, and you'll understand this in a little bit what I'm saying, but it's kind of hard to tell you now. So making those lines, perfectly cut lines, and showing them. Keep your template to show them. This is what you need. This is the most important part. So they don't want to cut this in 3 pieces because normally they think, oh, I'm cutting out this vase and this is what I need. And they'll cut this all up. Well, this is the stencil. This is what they need. But we're going to possibly use this again, depending on what grade you're in, to make a table, you know, make different things. But show them. Both of these things are very important, so don't cut this into 3 pieces. Like they're thinking this is trash and they don't need it again. So now this is when the tape comes in. So either grade, cut this one out. And I put tape on your clothing, or their clothing. I have, you know, walk around, put a piece of tape on their clothing because it helps take the stickiness away. You don't want it to be so sticky, so then when they tear it off, they have a chance of ripping their paper because it's too sticky. Never use Scotch tape, because Scotch tape is the worst. Okay, so once again with this, save this piece, so tell them don't lose this, don't crumble it all up, and don't trim it. Okay, they got to keep it in one piece. So taking your stencil and your big piece of paper, putting it together, and putting it, if you wanted to tear it in two pieces and put one at the top and one at the bottom so it really stays good, you can. And where is that tape too? Oh, right there, I need another piece of it. Anybody else tape? There you go.
Do you need tape? Yeah, I do. Thank you so much. Here, I'll put it right here. Okay, thanks.
So, and I did stick mine on my clothes and then tearing it off. I'm telling you, it does tear some of the paper if you're not careful. That's why it's really important. It seems silly, and the kids will all ask you, why are you putting tape on me? You know, they want to know that right away. So taking your stencil and putting it on here. Now, thinking of a table. Now this is just an impression of a table. It's not really the lines on it. So, you know, it all depends on what you're going to do and where you're placing this. And there's a little bit of difference here in figuring out some positive and negative pieces for the upper graders. Not so much on this one. So upper graders, that 5th and 6th, now for your piece of fruit. You're going to take the square. This is not 3rd and 4th, this is just, but this is such a great lesson. You guys might want to get yourself some of these chalks and do it yourself, because I love this lesson. I mean, really, once you frame something like that and put it in your house, I mean, you'll love it. Okay, so taking that square piece of paper, folding it in half, doing the same thing for a piece of fruit. Now you can have a pear, you know, I got apples here. So taking your pencil on the side, and same thing with the perimeters here, because this is a stencil. Make your little guidelines there so you can't go beyond, and then draw your piece of fruit. So if it's a pear or an apple. Now the kids can share these things, and you can draw a few of them, and if it's too big, you know, play around with it first before you go and cut it out. And then there's your piece of fruit. Keep both pieces around, the positive and negative pieces. They'll really come in handy. Okay. So it doesn't matter, you know, kids will say, oh, I messed up and I need to erase. It doesn't matter. They can draw all over this thing. This is going to be trash later, so tell them. It's like you don't have to erase, you know, just use that. So you have the positive piece and the negative piece. You will be using both of those probably. So, if I was going to make this vase right here on this, so notice, and this isn't right, why I keep these pictures that are kind of a mess, because this is like a little bit higher, so you want it to be, it would be like floating fruit, you know, the way that it looks. So the way that you arrange these things. So there's an apple in the way of the vase. See, I could not draw that whole vase unless it was by itself. If I did this vase just like this, then I couldn't put an apple in front of it or a pear in front of it. I'd have to put it next to it. Okay? So if I want to have this overlapping look, I have to think about that before. And I don't want to confuse everybody, make it so difficult, so as this could be. So I could just make a vase and a piece of fruit over here, and then I wouldn't have to worry about it. But if you like this overlapping look, then you need to think about that beforehand, and I would be putting make my piece of fruit first. So making my fruit first, and then the vase could be behind it. So I'm not going to get into complicating everything for you guys, but I just want you to understand how you can take this all to a different level. So starting off, we have our stencils on, taking a white. Now you always want to think about where the light is coming from, and draw this on the board for the kids. And it doesn't really matter, you know, if it's all the same or not. So I put a sunshine, say, okay, the sun is shining to the left. So if you are making more than one piece of fruit, they have to have that light all from the same side, because they can't turn it around and have the light from a different side. So taking this chalk on its side, okay, these are the chalk sticks, and they're really hard. This is the type of stick that Rembrandt would use. So holding your stencil, if you don't have tape in the bottom, on the left side and laying it on its side. So I take your 2 fingers and give it a little pinch. If you have really nice big ones, then break them so they're not a whole piece. So down the left side and work your way up on both of these things. Go all the way to the corners. And then we have the copper penny color. After you have the left side, take the copper color. So there's black. We're not going to be using black for this. And you're going to hold it on side again. So you'll see those kids that are going to hold it straight up and down like a pencil, and you don't want to have that. So making sure you look at that, or send somebody around looking at it, that it's actually sideways. So what I do, I also hold my hand out to the kids. I said, put that piece of chalk in your hand. So it's laying flat. You're going to take these 2 fingers, and you might need a bigger piece just to show them something that, because it's so small, they might not be able to see what you're doing. So holding it, this is the way that we're holding it. Okay. So starting in the middle. And you can swirl it. Hello.
Hi,
Good morning. So I take it you might be the principal?
Yes, morning.
I'm Mrs.
Bob.
Eichner. Nice to meet you. I haven't actually met you yet. I used to be at Olinda way back
Okay,
when Stacy was here and her kids were here.
okay,
So,
very
so
good.
way back.
All right, good. Well, thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Is
so that's-
everybody behaving and following
No,
directions?
are you kidding?
All right, thank you.
And then whatever color that you have darker, my kit only has the real dark brown, so there's different colors in different boxes. So the darker brown, so we have the 3 colors, is on the far right side. Another thing you want to tell the kids, they don't want a big chalk mess, okay? There are people with allergies too, but they want to, not use it really dark. But then you say that, and then there's kids that barely will use any because they're like taking you seriously, and then they make it so light. So an in between, but they don't want to have a pile of chalk, and then they don't want to blow it. So say don't blow it, because they'll blow, and then it will go underneath their stencil and all over the desk too. Okay, so then you take the Q-tip. And this is the part where you're going to show them that circular motion going around, holding your stencil in place. So our colors are going to blend together. So a lot of times what I see a lot of kids do, they'll make it look like there's just one color in the middle and one color here, but it's blending, so it's that light to dark. So starting in the corners, and it doesn't really matter exactly where you start, but you want to hold your stencil in place, working all the corners. So I like to do the, one side first, and then turning your, if it's the light, whatever side you start with. And then it goes into the middle color. And see my hand, it's blending this. So not all the way over, so I'm turning that white into that, orangish color, but it's blending it into it. Then moving your way over in that circular motion.
Circular, got it.
And then going all the way over to the other side. Holding that stencil down so it doesn't slip underneath it. You gotta be really careful. We don't want it to go underneath. So blending that light into that copper color. And it really does help to have a piece of tape on the bottom and the top, because I am slipping around because I don't have it like that. So before they get to remove their stencil, you have to say, okay, can you see, is your white enough? I mean, did they take away too much or maybe not put enough of it on there? Because this would be the time to do it. If you had to add anything, this would be the time before they remove their stencil. And that's what they'll be wanting to do the whole time, is keep lifting up and lifting up. Just tell them, don't lift up your stencil yet, because then you're gonna tend to get that chalk all over the place. And so your colors should look like one just blends right into the other. So there's not like separate lines. And then you can remove the stencil. Now also show them how to remove the stencil, because some of them will just